our guys, we got to end up executing, getting in and out of the huddle a certain way, and it wasn't that way, and so we'll be better today.
Is that what it was? Just getting in and out?
Yeah,
Is that on Caleb, or is that everybody?
It's everybody. It's everybody. We're learning. We're growing. There were some things from the springtime expected to carry over that was probably one we just don't have any tolerance for anymore. We got too far to go.
Do you find that they're very receptive in those moments too?
Yeah. They know it's not good enough, so it's just keep the train moving.
Welcome, everybody, to a special edition of the Chicago Football Show. I'm Scott Bair alongside Carmen Vitali, and you just heard from Bears head coach Ben Johnson, who said, look, he didn't exactly toss the first unit offense out of practice on Wednesday, but I think we also heard he definitely wasn't thrilled with the alignments and the difficulties lining up, and I think that's the kind of the combination that we've seen from this Bears coaching staff, but especially from Ben Johnson, that he's going to push them. And like he said at the end of that quote, is that they want to be pushed. They want to know, and they know what's acceptable and what's not, and why would you settle for anything less? While at first he kind of laughed it off and said, hey, I didn't kick everybody out of practice, but he also admitted everybody else needs reps, and if you're not ready to go, you're not going to get yours.
Right. It was all a matter of they have limited reps, they have limited time. He talked so much about this being a race for the next 6 weeks to get this team built and the systems built that, there's no wasted time on any of this. And it's interesting because you hear the players echo that sentiment of we want to be coached hard. We want this to be the standard. We want Ben to be the guy to set it. Also, Kevin Bair today, I think, said that he has aura.
Yeah.
That Ben Johnson has aura.
I think that's a term made for people younger than me, but
that's a Gen
I had to look
Z.
that up on Urban Dictionary. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, that's a Gen Z. That's a Gen Z term. But no, you saw it throughout practice, though, because there was even one point where Caleb Williams in 7-on-7 broke the huddle and something didn't go right, and then they ended up doing it all over again. And it's just one of those things where if you're going to say the details matter as much as they do, then those are the things that are going to need to be redone, and those are the things that are going to happen. It sounds like that's pretty par for the course for Ben Johnson, though, and has been for his coaching career.
Yeah, and that's definitely what we've seen on this, our third consecutive day here at Halas Hall, recording Chicago football shows each and every day over the course of the first 5 days, which you can catch on Marquee Sports Network, the Watch Marquee app, and anywhere that you get your podcasts. Oh, and YouTube. So pretty much just turn on your phone, type in Chicago football show, and something will show up. And we have another fun show over the course of this Thursday. We're going to hit on some running game. We're going to break down some secondary. And we are going to be visited by the Athletic Bears beat writer Kevin Fishbain later in the show, so look forward to that. Always a good time with him. But kind of back on this Ben Johnson intensity train.
Yeah.
Right, because we just keep seeing little examples of it. And I think that the tone has been set for everybody. And it kind of happens on both sides of the ball, but let's not forget DeAndre Swift has worked with Ben Johnson in Detroit during his first year as offensive coordinator, and DeAndre Swift said this is par for the course.
Right. No, he was absolutely like, this has been Ben, this is Ben, and this is not out of the ordinary, but this is how intense that he is, because again, the details matter, and that's how you're successful, and that's been drilled into these players, very obviously drilled into these players, because every single player, whether offense or defense, says, hey, we know that we have to, raise the standard here. In order to get success, the standard has to be raised. And so that was echoed, I think, on both sides of the ball, which was really interesting because, the head coach obviously leans offense or defense on every team. And you hear from the offensive players, if it's an offensive coach, like, this is, he's coaching us hard, he's doing all that. But now you're also hearing from the defensive players, too, saying the same thing. Like, that's permeating throughout the rest of the locker room, not only with the players, but with the staff, too.
Yeah, and I think those types of things are important, again, as you're starting to build the foundation. Because let's rewind back when Matt Eberflus got fired. And so much of it was that the players wanted hard coaching. They wanted more attention to detail. An interesting thing that General Manager Ryan Poles said about this concept of not being detail-oriented enough on a season that started 4-2 and completely fell apart is that should have been taken care of in training camp.
Right.
That was something that he said, and it's very clear. Not only are they setting the tone and the foundation and those types of things, is that this isn't going to be acceptable at any point.
Right.
And you're not going to be able to get away with it during regular season games that come down to one score. This franchise has been really bad in one-score games, especially under Matt Eberflus. Those are the things that they need to change. Guess who's really good in one-score games? The Vikings.
The Vikings
right?
are, yes.
And I mean, Lions blow people out. But
right.
if you're going to compete in this division and things come down to the final moment and you need every detail right, you need to make sure the block's right so the Packers special teams player doesn't come through and block your field goal. Right? We talk about all these little detail things, but it's the details that contribute to the dramatic moments that are etched into Bears fans' brains from last year.
Right.
And I think that we need to kind of make that connection, I guess is my point, is what's being done now, the standard that's being set now, will impact games in November and December.
We certainly hope that it's going to permeate throughout the rest of the season. That's the hope of building this foundation in the very beginning. And I'm not really concerned with the fact that maybe they're not lining up correctly. Players aren't lining up correctly right away, or, some of the plays aren't quite working and they're a little out of sync. Second day of practice, of course it's going to happen. But what I am encouraged by is the fact that Ben Johnson isn't afraid to go ahead and redo it or to call out those little details. And the fact that has translated to the players taking it upon themselves to do it. I watched Cole Kmet today miss a pass in individual drills from Caleb Williams, and then instead of just kind of going to the other end of the field with the rest of the tight ends, he went around and he waited his turn to do it again, and he made sure that Caleb, kind of like they were switching off quarterbacks, he made sure that Caleb was up and took his turn and then completed the pass. And this was just in individual drills.
Yeah.
It was making the mistake but saying, I'm not just going to make the mistake and move on, I'm going to go correct it and then I'll move on, and waited his turn and everything. So seeing stuff like that on top of the messaging that we hear from the coaches that everything is very detail oriented and they're not afraid to be intense about it, that's the best that you can hope for at this stage of the game, because it's only the second day of practice.
Yeah, and I think about those details when it comes to the running game, which is foundational for a Ben Johnson offense, the way he expects tracks and run fits and everything to run with perfect timing. And he has DeAndre Swift, who he's worked with before. Ben Johnson and DeAndre Swift kind of talked about the motivation and the excitement to really get going and do better in 25.
We'll find out more once we get the pads on, but extremely coachable. Improvements on the tracks every single day. Just we're very detailed with where we want them to go. They're all about it. Coach Bieniemy's doing a phenomenal job. He's very demanding. He's one of the more demanding coaches I've been around. I think they're receptive to that type of coaching. I think Swift has done a great job. Come back from the summer. He's in great shape. He had some plays yesterday that weren't ideal. We might have had a guy unblocked in the hole, and yet he's able to extend it and make something happen beyond. So highly motivated group. I know the perception out there is that maybe it's not the most talented room in the world. They like to hear that noise. So we're gonna be just fine.
With DeAndre Swift, you coached him before. What seems different to you about the player you have now versus 3 years ago?
He has always been quiet. He's always been highly motivated on the inside. So there's a lot of things about him that are the same as what they've been. He's not happy with how last year went for him. Production-wise, team-wise, everything-wise. He's really motivated. He's really excited to help lead and spur this team forward. So I don't think I see a whole lot of differences from where he's been, but I see a very hungry individual.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Well, you heard it right there from Ben Johnson. The motivation is high to get this running game right, especially after DeAndre didn't like his season last year, and he didn't like the wins and losses. And his total scrimmage yards, as he pointed out in his Thursday press conference, was pretty good. But if you look at his yards per carry average in the second half of the season, we're talking below 3 sometimes. Yeah. That the run game had just kind of stopped working, and he had stopped working well within it, and it had kind of gotten lost. So for as much as it seems to me, let me start over. For as much as it was made that Ben Johnson was on the Lions staff and Swift got traded, it seems like these guys are in lockstep. Yeah. And it was mentioned by Ben Johnson and by DeAndre Swift that they definitely hear that people on the outside don't think this running back core is terribly talented. And motivation for athletes, it comes from anywhere. Any little slight. Just ask Michael Jordan. And so I guess kind of like, what's your take about how Swift and Johnson are going to work well together, obviously with this offensive line, to get this run game going.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to the coaches in Detroit about DeAndre Swift when Ben came here, and you're talking about this run game and how the Bears didn't make any moves or significant moves for another running back, and what I got was it wasn't that Ben Johnson didn't like DeAndre Swift's game or didn't think that he fitted into his offense very well.
Right.
It was just he wasn't quite as available as he needed him to be.
Yeah.
So as long as DeAndre Swift is still available and stays healthy this year, I still see a really big year for him in Ben Johnson's system. You want to get that balanced offense, and you want to make sure that the run game is supported, which they've done also with the offensive line additions,
Definitely.
which make a huge difference. We heard DeAndre Swift say he can't wait to get behind that offensive line when the pads come on. And then also something you see from like a rookie 7th round pick, Kyle Monangai, who the effort was just there all practice today. I don't know
Had
if
a
you noticed.
great run today, too.
He had a great run, but even when he didn't, when he was in the game, he would finish the run in the end zone no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
If the play was over, he continued to run down the field as just kind of, I think I took it as a sign of effort, as a sign of hunger, just to say, I want this. This is where I want to be. Let me finish this out and show everyone here that I'm a high effort guy, and I'm going to try my best to do what I can for this running back room. And I think with a high effort guy like that, you add in Roschon Johnson, it's not that this running back room isn't talented. Mm-hmm. I think that it's being kind of, because it's being compared to David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs in Detroit, who are arguably the best running back tandem in the league, it's kind of a lose-lose situation when you're trying to, go from one to the other. So I've always talked about how it's those guys don't exist on this team, David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, but that doesn't necessarily mean that this isn't going to be a viable run game.
Yeah, and when you look at the pieces up front that play such a huge role, and the guys who DeAndre Swift has had his best season in Philadelphia with a really solid offensive line,
right.
I think this offensive line is the most stable part of any position group on this team right now, and that can kind of vault them forward, and so can Ben Johnson's schematics. So I think that was a good breakdown of what we saw and heard. Now we're going to get Kevin Fishbain's take, the Bears reporter from The Athletic, coming up, joining us on the Chicago Football Show after this. Welcome back to a special edition of the Chicago Football Show here at Halas Hall, and it's made even more special because The Athletic Bears beat writer Kevin Fishbain has joined us. He's also seen every single second of every single Bears practice. There's only been 2, so it's not that much of a badge of honor. But I'm curious, watching new defensive coordinator Dennis Allen over the course of the offseason program and now into training camp, what are your impressions of kind of how he conducts his business and kind of what you've seen from him to this point?
Yeah, I mean, old school, right? First thing that comes to mind. We obviously heard a lot about, it's the most talked about up-downs maybe in the history of in football.
40 in particular.
Yes, but for good reason. It's new, it's different. We're not used to that here necessarily. And look, I think a lot of defensive coaches have some, similar philosophies as DA. But I keep watching the linebackers because I keep wanting to know, what is this defense going to look like for linebackers? Because I always go back to Demario Davis, what he did in New Orleans with Dennis Allen, and just thinking about the money that the Bears spent on Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards for another defense that's supposed to highlight linebackers, and then what can these guys do here? So again, it's obviously early, no pads, but those are 2 guys that you wonder, can Dennis Allen get even more out of guys who, again, these are high-paid, very athletic, very good linebackers, and last year they had their moments, of course, but can this defense get even more out of 2 guys who were signed for a different defense but are good enough, obviously, to perform well in this one?
Well, and kind of you need to see how the front 7 in general is going to work together, because so much of what the front is doing is going to impact what the guys are on the back level or the middle levels are doing. And how much do you anticipate those linebackers then being a part of some of those fronts and being part of the pass rush and having that be something that that DA is going to try to do in order to improve the pass rush, which obviously fell short last year?
Well, it's a good point, because if you think about what position's a little thin, it's defensive end, right? That's a position that we're just okay, what's Montez going to do this year after disappointing last year? Dio Dengbo, I think that there's a lot of reason to be excited about him. I know a lot of fans are why'd you give this guy this much money with the sack production? But there's a lot more there.
Right.
But still, you got question marks about both those guys and certainly about the guys behind them. So where do you look? You look at those linebackers who are really talented and have been in this game for a long time. So you're right. I think that there's going to be different ways. The other guy, when you talk about pass rush and you talk about DA, is Kyler Gordon.
Yeah.
I am so fascinated to see how he uses. I mean, he kind of said it back in January. Like, they're going to find unique ways to use Kyler Gordon. And we saw Matt Eberflus use him on blitzes a lot. Kyler's very effective there. Is this defense going to be in nickel more often than they maybe need to, just because he's that versatile? So he's also kind of a part of, I think, of that pass rush equation, because obviously, like, you want the pass rush to be Sweat and Dexter and Dio and Grady Jarrett, and those guys just do it all. And in a perfect world, they will. But you also won't need to have other options.
Yeah. When we heard from Kevin Byard, and he was talking about that turnovers still matter to defenses, even though maybe some more advanced metrics like completion percentage and EPA and things like that may matter and may contribute to wins. How much do you think that turnovers are a part of this defense's DNA already, and how important is it going to be to really kind of surge in terms of getting more takeaways?
Couldn't you kind of picture, like, Ben Johnson comes in the media room with the whole team and shows, like, EPA per pass and shows the correlation of the wins and losses, and then he wraps up. He goes, I'm going to pass it to DA. DA goes up there, and he puts up his slides and goes, let's look at turnovers. Let's look at takeaways. Because, I mean, if you're a defensive player, that is in your DNA. As you said, your DNA is take the football away. And so I think that these guys understand that, hey, we can make things easier for our offense. We can create like you get an interception and you give the ball to your offense in the red zone. That's going to probably help your offense's EPA because they don't have to go the whole length of the field. So all these things are kind of connected. So yeah, I mean, I'm like, with the back end of the defense, I think that you talk about, like, player who's most intriguing in that, in through the lens of taking the ball away, is Shaquan Brisker. And Kevin Byard talked about him today, and we've heard him out here. We always do. We've seen him a little bit. So, like, I just think that, like, he's somebody, like, he's not going to be sitting here talking about offensive EPA. He's like, I'm going to take the ball away. That's what
see ball, get ball.
That's what I was brought here to do, and they need more of it, and that's what made such a difference in 2023. You go back to the last division championship when they were the best in the league at doing it. So they still have to do that at a high level if they're going to want to be successful, because this offense might take some time.
And to that point too, the defense, we've heard so much about Dennis Allen being physical and wanting the defense to be physical and wanting the defense to be intense, and that's kind of, I feel like that's the word of this team now, because we talk about how Ben Johnson is intense, you talk about how DA is intense, and how that intensity is even felt by us watching these first couple of days. What has been your takeaway from now getting to see more of who Ben Johnson is, who his staff is as far as on the field during practices?
Yeah, well, he's talked about leaning on his staff, and you look at what he put together, and you're like, oh, I get it. I get bringing in someone like Dennis Allen, who then brings in Al Harris.
Yes.
You look at Antoine Randall and what he means for the wide receivers and just for the whole offense because of his experience. You look at the offensive line coach, Dan Rochar, has been around the game for a long time. You see some of the veteran guys, Richard Smith on defense. Like, these are guys who can be people for Ben Johnson to say, hey, this is my first time being a head coach. I need to count on you guys to help me through this a little bit and be there just to kind of fill in the gaps. So I right now it has the makings of a pretty good staff. It's different. Like, you guys have heard me joke about this is my fifth head coach. So it's and some of those head coaches have fired staffs like in the middle. So I was here when Matt Nagy brought in a whole new offensive staff, and I was here when he brought in a whole new defensive staff, and then another whole new defensive staff, and I was here when Matt Eberflus brought in a whole new offensive staff.
Yep.
It's 5 head coaches and a lot.
Is it you? Are you the drama?
Listen, I started on this beat after the Lovie Smith era, so
Are you the drama? I think Kevin Fishbain is the drama, guys.
I was here in 2018, and that season worked out. So I've seen a lot of different makeups of staffs, and I feel like I go back to 2018. Like, what was great about that pairing was you had first-year head coach Matt Nagy, and you had this veteran coordinator Vic Fangio who had a veteran staff with him, and I think that stuff matters. And you can also, I want to be careful with some of the comparisons, but there's a lot there are a lot of similarities between this year and leading into 2018. But that offensive staff Matt Nagy had, had some guys that like maybe didn't have some of the experience of what Ben Johnson's group does. So again, if you're a Bears fan, you're looking for kind of these little glimmers of hope. But I do think this is a pretty nice coaching staff that they put together.
I did want to hop back in on something that you said and switch some gears about the offense taking time. Right, because fans are going to come out here over the weekend, and there's lots of public practices. And how do you evaluate Caleb Williams on? I have to check the date. I already don't know what day it is. On July 24th, right? To be kind of put that in perspective, because you see him on the field and maybe he's got some struggles or some missteps or something like that, but put it in a grander perspective for how he's learning this new scheme and going through the process.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of a both things can be true, right? Because he's going to be learning. There's going to be some growing pains. It's a brand new offense. It's a brand new coaching staff. It's a brand new guy in his ear. It's a brand new offensive line. But you also, this isn't a team that is supposed to go 5-12 and you see growth, and the next year they go 8-9, and the next year they go, this is now. This is a team that needs to have a sense of urgency. So I think when you're out there and you're watching the team, you can step back and say, okay, veteran defense, new quarterback. We said that stuff last year.
We did.
So you got to be careful. I get that they're probably structuring their practices very specifically because that's the way Ben Johnson has been wired. And we don't look. I'd love it if he came in before practice and showed us the scripts and showed us each play and what you're supposed to do. Because for we've been out here the first 2 days, we just haven't seen the offense move the ball very successfully, very efficiently. They've been some nice plays here and there, but again, as you said, Scott, only 2 days. That's why you kind of well, I don't know what the intent was. I saw J.J. Watt tweet earlier because. Did you see the tweet?
Yeah.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, where he tweeted about somebody was charting completions attempts at Cleveland Browns practice, and he was like, "This is ridiculous," and it is. It's true. He's right. It's ridiculous to kind of make a whole grand thought about completion percentage in practice, but you want to see the offense move the ball. The camp is geared for the offense to be successful. There's no hitting the quarterback. The defensive guys, it's not as physical as a game. So I think that yes, it's okay for there to be growing pains, but you want to see the offense give you hope ahead of week 1 that this thing is going to be able to take off quickly, because again, this is not a rebuilding situation.
What do you think is the biggest factor in that? I mean, we talk a lot about Caleb Williams and how he's still a question mark, and we need to see him make some drastic improvements when it comes to decision making, holding the ball, and getting in rhythm with this offense. But outside of that, what do you think is the biggest factor to success for this offense and to start seeing the offense move the ball down the field?
How about the run game?
Yeah.
Let's.
I had a feeling you might say something like that.
I know it's the old school, hey, run the ball. It's gonna make it easier for your quarterback. It sets up play action, which we can get in the advanced things about play action now. It's not that simple, but it does matter in a sense. You do.
It's a huge proponent of Ben Johnson's offense.
It's a big part of it, and he wouldn't implement play action passing game to complement a strong running game if you didn't think that those went hand in hand together. And we saw how successful it was in Detroit. So I think that if you can get DeAndre Swift and Roshan Johnson going, that just, again, it's simple. It's I feel like it's 2005 the way I'm talking about it. But
the league is cyclical. The run game's coming back around.
Exactly. You saw you look at the Eagles last year, and you look at the Ravens, what they've done for so long. Make it easier on your quarterback.
Yeah.
Make it 2nd and 3.
Right.
This team was so, abysmal, frankly, on first down runs last year.
Yeah.
It was a major problem when the offense was having its issues. You were able to point to first down runs, and this team, and you could also talk about the penalties. They were behind the sticks a lot.
Right.
But get the run game going. Get your quarterback in a 2nd and 2. Give your play caller who's got you guys watch quarterback, and how many times he says Ben's in his bag, right?
Right.
But you can't do that if it's
you're
2nd
behind
and
the
12
stick,
and 3rd and 14, and an old Matt Nagy line is in my head. And one day they had a 3rd and 27, and he kind of said the next day don't have a lot of plays for 3rd and 27.
There are
when it's 2nd and short, or you go to first down, it just opens up everything. So
Yes.
I just think that the run game is going to help that and just allow this because that's probably the part of the offense you maybe have some. You mentioned Caleb. There's obviously questions about what Caleb Williams can do, but there are questions about the run game,
Right.
and they're fair
Absolutely,
questions. So if that group steps up behind the new look offensive line, you got to imagine it's going to do a lot for Caleb Williams in the passing game.
And see, I think there's so much intrigue going into this training camp, and as we move through the preseason, there's so much new, yet this is not a rebuilding situation. It's a weird combination of those two things, and that's why it's going to be fascinating to watch. So as we kind of wrap this thing up, thank you so much to Kevin Fishbain from The Athletic. Oh, by the way, go check out his new podcast, Breaking In. It's all about kind of getting started in sports writing, unique human stories. I'm a fan and a subscriber. You should be too. Also, while you're subscribing to stuff, do so for the Watch Marquee on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. You can watch this on the Marquee Sports Network. Am I missing something? And the Watch Marquee app. I think I got it all. Whew. We will. Now I'm completely out of breath. For Kevin and Carmen, I'm Scott. We'll talk to you again on Friday. See ya.
Okay.